So with that, today I'm joined by my colleagues. First off, we have Natalia Abrams, who's SDCC's president and founder. How's it going, Natalia?
It's going okay, but just hearing of that we haven't spoken for a while, I just keep thinking of lawsuit summer. So I know we're going to get into that, but it's going okay.
Yeah, there's a lot to chat about. And I'm also joined by Sabrina Ashley Cereceres, who is our special projects and free the degree director. Sabrina Ashley, thank you for being here.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. Excited to get into the conversation.
Yes. So if you don't know who we are, at Student Debt Crisis Center, we believe that by centering the needs and voices of borrowers and partnering with allies, we will impact public policy and end the student debt crisis. If you do want to learn more about the work that we do at SDCC or read through some borrower stories, you can visit our website, which was created by Sabrina Cereceres, at studentdebtcrisis.org, or find us on social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at debtcrisis.org. So, as I mentioned, there is a lot to cover, so let's jump right in. And actually, before we jump in, I do have a disclaimer. There is a lot of things that are happening, as I said, but things are changing by the day. So when it comes to the student debt space, the information that we're talking about today relates to the guidance and the rules that are in place right now in this very moment. So it's possible that within a week from now, some things might change. It's just changing by the minute. And so we are trying to keep on top of that and providing folks with the most up-to-date information. Also, you're going to hear us say this a lot today, that we don't know, we're not sure, and that we're not lawyers, because we're not. And we're not going to say things that we're uncertain of and provide incorrect information. So we are experts. We work, very closely with the Department of Education, with policy folks, with lawyers. And so this is what we know right now, and we're going to try and convey that to you all. So the last time that we were here, we talked about the president's latest student debt cancellation plan. So Sabrina Ashley, can you actually walk us through what that plan entails?
Yeah, of course. And I'll just answer one question that I get a ton before I get into it. But if borrowers qualify for any of these proposed bullet points here that I'm going to go through, they could receive student debt cancellation. Some folks think that they have to, meet all of these requirements, but that's not true. So let's get into these proposed points for student debt cancellation. So this proposal would cancel runaway interest for millions of borrowers. It would automatically cancel debt for borrowers that are eligible for loan forgiveness under SAVE, which is an IDR program, or public service loan forgiveness, if they were part of closed school discharge or some other forgiveness programs, but they're not enrolled. That's a key point there. It would also cancel for borrowers who entered repayment over 20 years ago. And then it would also cancel student debt for borrowers who are enrolled in low financial value programs. And the last point here is that it would cancel student debt for borrowers experiencing hardship paying back their loans.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sabrina Ashley. What we do know is that this plan is a little bit more narrow than that original plan that the president had proposed a couple of years ago, which is going to cancel either $10,000 or $20,000 per borrower. This is a little bit more targeted, trying to get some specific buckets of folks to get some cancellation. If you have student loans, you may have received an email from FSA, Federal Student Aid, about opting out or taking action in relation to this plan. No action was required if you want to benefit from this, if you're eligible. But if you did not want to receive relief for some reason, you would have had to opt out. So I believe the date for that has passed already. But as we all know, that whenever there's good news, a new plan proposed by the president, our opponents tend to attack that plan. And this time we are seeing the latest attempt at that. And so, Natalia, we just got news yesterday that there's been the latest attempt to block this plan. Can you tell us a little bit about what we know so far? Just anything you can share with us.
Yeah, and it's so bizarre because, as advocates and nonprofits that are working on getting President Biden's Plan B to be delivered, this came as a shock to us because we've been awaiting the final rule and we haven't even seen that yet. And last night, the same attorney generals that sued and blocked student debt, broad-based student debt cancellation, filed a lawsuit last night trying to block this third round, as they're putting it, or Plan B, as we're putting it, of student debt cancellation. So everything Sabrina Ashley just mentioned, the attorney generals are trying to get a temporary restraining order by September 6th, that is within the next 2 days, to block any more forgiveness from happening. The fear with this, this should be laughed out of the courts. But I think we have a very partisan judge that this is going up against. If you're a student loan borrower right now, you're just feeling like the law is not on your side. And we're going to go into more of the lawsuits. So spoiler alert, there's going to be a lot of different lawsuits and lawsuit discussions on this call. And we need to, we need to fight this, but we first need to see what the final rule on Plan B was. As advocates, we're also waiting the second part of Plan B, which would be the hardship part. Seeing this lawsuit now, it's just a lot of folks this morning are down thinking about what's to come next, because I didn't realize that they could sue a plan before it was even implemented, but that's what's happening right now. And it's just it's so hard to not see this as anything but partisan when we're just trying to help borrowers of money that they never should have accrued on their debt anyways. That you should never have had runaway interest. You should have been able to get your money back if you went to a closed school. You should never have been in repayment for more than 20 years. So these are really bare bone, from what the original plan was. This is very bare bone measures. As advocates, we have not been thrilled with this, but I also often think about, advice I've been given that a good compromise is when both sides are unhappy. And that is what Plan B was a good compromise to the larger student debt cancellation. And even that is not okay. So right now, we feel for you as student loan borrowers. We understand, we're hearing from you every single day that you don't know which lawsuit impacts you, where you're being affected. I will say with this plan, nothing has been rolled out yet. I feel they moved way too soon by suing preemptively, because we didn't even get the big announcements of, look, you're going to have your debt canceled and having something taken away from you. So many borrowers didn't even know this plan was coming out. So we're going to fight this. We're going to stay on top of this for you. I know this can be confusing, but essentially the feeling, and I don't know how you feel, Sabrina's, but that Plan B is going to be delayed, potentially more so than we thought it was going to be.
Yeah, how are you feeling about this, Sabrina Ashley?
Yeah, well, when we talked about it this morning, it was really distressing for me, and I'm sure you both as well, other advocates. It's just really hard to think about this and think about all the borrowers that are going to be suffering. And we all have loans on this call, or we've been on repayment. So yeah, it's really tough to try to decipher all of these things. My first question, is, was that legal? Same thing. Can they even sue something that is not implemented yet? Yeah, it's just really tough to provide answers for borrowers, because we know that we're going to get tons of questions about this. We're working with borrowers every day, one-on-one, through email, phone call. We get tons of requests. So it's hard to know what the heck to tell them.
Yeah, so you hear confusion from us. That's definitely the confusion we know you're all feeling. Well, you mentioned we're not lawyers. You said we'd say that. I've been on the phone with a lot of different lawyers that are in the student debt space, and they feel similar. And they also just feel so discouraged that the law kind of doesn't matter anymore. We're just down to such partisan fighting. And the people that suffer are the student loan holders, are the middle class, the folks that are just trying to get a leg up by going to college. I could go on and on, but I know we have to go to a break, Sabrina.
We do. Thank you, Natalia. So stick with us. This is the SDCC takeover of the Leslie Marshall Show.
If you miss Leslie on TV this week, catch up at lesliemarshallshow.com. Follow Leslie on Twitter. Just go to www.twitter.com/Leslie Marshall, and we'll be sure to share your tweets.
If you came across someone struggling with hunger, how would you recognize them? By their clothes, their age, the way they speak? Would you notice an 8-year-old girl who's not excited for summer break
because she may not be having lunch again until September?
Or a single father of 2 who works 3
part-time jobs and still can't put enough food on the table?
Or maybe a mother who cleans offices at night,
Hoping to find meeting leftovers to take home to her hungry family.
or a war veteran who's having a hard time landing a job.
and getting back on his feet.
I am the 1 in 8 Americans who struggle with hunger. People you pass by every day but never knew were hungry. I am hunger in America.
Hunger can be hard to recognize. Learn why at IamHungerInAmerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America, 200 Food Banks Strong, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to the Leslie Marshall Show. I'm Natalia Abrams, and joined again with the Student Debt Crisis Center's Sabrina Ashley and Sabrina Ashley Cereceres. We always joke that maybe people just know your name is Sabrina Ashley, and Sabrina Calazans. Today we are taking over for the Leslie Marshall Show and discussing recent developments in the student debt space. At the beginning of the program, Sabrina Calazans mentioned that the information you are hearing today, September 4th, 2024, is the information that we know as of today. For example, we just had another lawsuit hit last night. Things are changing day to day in the student debt space. So if you're listening to this weeks from now, definitely check the news, check our website at studentdebtcrisis.org to get the latest guidance that are in place when you hear this weeks from now. Before the break, we were talking about some of the recent attacks surrounding the president's latest plan to cancel student debt. Now we need to discuss, more on lawsuits and what's going on with the SAVE plan, which was the president's newest repayment plan and the most generous repayment plan to date. So just another spoiler alert, what we're going to speak about is currently in litigation. However, Sabrina Calazans, can you remind folks what the SAVE plan is?
Sure. So the SAVE plan is an income-driven repayment plan. That is a monthly repayment plan that is based on your family size and income, which is supposed to result in more affordable monthly payments. So now some of the benefits of the SAVE plan include a shorter timeline to cancellation for low balance borrowers. So if you borrowed originally $12,000 or less, you could have shifted your timeline to repayment for 10 years instead of 20. It capped interest. So if you met your minimum monthly payment, the remaining interest would be covered by the government. It would be subsidized, so your balance wouldn't grow. That's a huge point of frustration for borrowers. Borrowers with only undergraduate loans were also going to see payments be cut in half, and some sort of reduction if you had a combination of undergrad and grad loans. And if you file taxes married, file separate, you can exclude your spousal income when filing, when applying for an IDR plan, and then when you can also opt in to automatic IRS recertification, so that you wouldn't have to call every 12 months and tell Mohila, okay, I have 4 people in my family and I'm making this much income. It's automatically recertified. So there were a lot of benefits to this plan. I am enrolled in the SAVE plan. There's about 8 million people enrolled in the SAVE plan. As you said, Natalia, there's a lot of litigation going on right now, so I'll toss it back to you, but I know we're going to talk about the administrative forbearances and kind of what's going on with all of this.
Yeah, absolutely. And Sabrina Ashley can I toss it to you to just do the kind of overview of what's going on with the lawsuits, and then Sabrina and I are happy to jump in as well.
Sure, I will do my best. Reminder to everyone listening, none of us here are lawyers or
not a lawyer.
But this is what we are hearing. So basically, there are two separate lawsuits on the SAVE plan. One is in Missouri and one is in Kansas. So coming out of Missouri, there is a legal challenge that was filed to block the part of the SAVE plan that cancels debts in full for borrowers. So those are those low balance borrowers, ones that Sabrina mentioned, who borrowed $12,000 or less. So that's one lawsuit. Another lawsuit coming out of Kansas was filed to block the reduced monthly payments of the SAVE plan. So basically, the SAVE plan was using 5% of your discretionary income, or 10% of your discretionary income, and then it would reduce your monthly payment to be based off of 5% of your discretionary income. So that would have, reduced payments by about half, for folks with undergraduate loans, and for folks with a mixture of undergrad and grad loans, it would still greatly reduce their payments. Again, both of these are incredible lifelines for folks that have been blocked. And these were going to take effect July 1st, but unfortunately these lawsuits blocked that. So now, where do things stand? It's a little foggy. Things are definitely bouncing around in courts. Yeah, right now, I know that the SAVE plan is being discussed as a possibility of going to the Supreme Court. And I'll toss it back to either Sabrina or Natalia if you want to take over that chunk, because I'm definitely not an expert in that.
Sure. That's fine. And I think that it's moving a little ahead at the moment. We had this Missouri, we have the Kansas, but then the entire SAVE plan was put on hold. And that's what's important if you're a student loan borrower listening to this. While you can still enroll in the SAVE plan via a paper application, you'll be put on an administrative forbearance. And this is all on hold, waiting for the case itself to be litigated in the 8th Circuit Court of Appeals. We expect this to happen soon. That's what we keep hearing. That could be weeks, that could be months. Because to your point on Supreme Court, because there are two different cases, there's discussion that they'll enjoin the cases, meaning put them together, and then this will go to the Supreme Court. Our fears, worst case scenario is that this could stretch all the way into next summer. This is where I wish I was a lawyer, but I still don't think that would give me solace or calm me down, because there is this potential it can last a very long time. And while it can sound good to be an administrative forbearance that you don't have, and that means that you have no interest accruing. So if you were on the SAVE plan, now it's blocked, you're on what's called an administrative forbearance. You will not have any interest charged. However, none of your time will be counted towards income-driven repayment programs, and none of your time will be counted towards public service loan forgiveness. 1 month or two, people can survive. If we're talking, almost a year of time, that is just so awful. And even for some folks, 1 month or two, if you're looking towards retirement with public service loan forgiveness, this has delayed your retirement. So it's truly infuriating. Excuse me, I have trouble with the word at the moment. But we really want to explain, and especially in the next segment, who this is impacting, who this isn't, and what you should do. Because along with this hold on the entire program, the Department of Education has also had to take down online applications. The only way to apply is a paper application. And so, we want to discuss with you how to help you out through that. Anything you want to add, Sabrina, Calazans, before we get ready for the break?
No, I think that this forbearance is a very difficult discussion to have with folks, especially PSLF. So I'm going through it at the moment, so I understand the frustration.
Yeah, absolutely. We are a public service loan forgiveness employer here at Student Debt Crisis Center. And, even our own folks are impacted. So stay with us. There's a lot more to discuss. This is the SDCC takeover of the Leslie Marshall Show.
Become Leslie's friend on Facebook. Go to www.facebook.com/Leslie Marshall and join her fan page.
Whoa, a new digital music player. Thanks, Mom.
Oh, I'm glad you like it, because I can't wait to toss the big stereo. And now that we got your dad that big HD TV he wanted, we can throw out our old TV too.
Hold up. You can't just throw out electronics.
Really?
They need to be recycled or donated.
And how would we do that?
It's so easy, Mom. Today, recycling electronics is just as easy as buying them. GreenerGadgets.org has all the info. We just enter our zip code to find a certified recycling center nearby. There are thousands of them, and new ones are being added all the time. Some of our local stores are even certified recycling locations.
I like that.
Did you know that some of the stuff in our old electronics could be used to make new products and conserve natural resources?
Well, okay then. Let's gather them up. What was that website again?
GreenerGadgets.org. We just enter our zip code and go.
Everyone, welcome back to the SDCC takeover of the Leslie Marshall Show. This is Sabrina Ashley. I am joined by Sabrina Calazans on the SDCC team, as well as Natalia Abrams on the team. And before the break, we were talking about a lot of SAVE stuff. SAVE is an income-driven repayment plan. We've been talking about how there are a couple lawsuits against the plan that is blocking some of the benefits. And we were just about to get into what borrowers are experiencing while enrolled in this plan. And that is an administrative forbearance. So with that, we're going to go through some facts about what the heck is happening with this administrative forbearance, starting with what this is. So basically, this administrative forbearance is involuntary. If you are enrolled in the SAVE plan, there's no application needed. Your account was put into this forbearance automatically by your servicers. It is showing up differently on servicer websites and on the FSA website, so it can be confusing, but there are about 8 million borrowers who were enrolled in SAVE that have been placed into this forbearance. And during this forbearance, borrowers are not required to make any payments, and interest will not accrue. And that's one of the things that is showing up kind of funky on accounts. You might see interest, quote, accruing on your account, but it is not. It is just a matter of how the servicer is displaying that. So what are some of the downsides of this forbearance? I'll go ahead and toss that to you, Sabrina, if you'd like to go over that.
Sure. So as we were alluding to before the break, the time in this forbearance does not count towards public service loan forgiveness or income-driven repayment IDR credits. Now, if you're in public service loan forgiveness like I am, and you're working towards getting 120 monthly credits, you're making your monthly payment, or if you're on a $0 payment and you get that monthly credit. We've been in this forbearance, I think, going on 2 months now, 3. So for this time being, you are not getting any of those credits. So I've missed out on, let's say, 2 to 3 credits. That makes all the difference for folks. If you are currently at 117 or 119 and you're not getting that monthly credit, that is very frustrating, especially as Natalia said, you're looking forward to retiring, you're looking forward to changing jobs, you're looking forward to just anything in general. It is frustrating. And so we have been on this mission to get some information to try and advise folks what they should do. We have a little bit ahead, Sabrina. Actually, I'm going to skip over here. You know, there are benefits to remaining in the SAVE plan as there are downsides to it. So if you are considering working towards PSLF or you're very close to it, you may want to consider enrolling in another IDR plan. You may want to consider the standard plan. Again, this is not a one-size-fits-all approach. This really depends on each borrower's situation. But if you're very close to forgiveness, you may want to opt into another plan.
And that's the problem, right? Like at Student Debt Crisis Center, we do workshops talking to you all on a radio show. And the problem right now is there is some advice. It's not to say there's no information out there, but it's hyper individualized advice. So if you are looking to the standard program, that only counts if you have a regular 10-year loan. If you've consolidated into a 30-year loan, the standard program's not going to work for you. This is where it gets so confusing. Up until I think mid-August, you could have enrolled in ICR, but now only Parent Plus borrowers can enroll in ICR. Pay existed until mid-August. It doesn't exist now. You know, we often say if we're confused, we can only imagine the rest of the confusion out there for borrowers. So you need to check with your servicer, check with us at studentdebtcrisis.org, check with the Department of Education, be very careful making changes right now. You know, if you joined our show back in May, we were telling you this is the safest time to consolidate. That is not the case anymore. That deadline has passed. And so you want to be very careful in making moves. You can switch into other repayment programs, but we haven't brought this up yet. We're hearing about a ton of processing delays and that the servicers aren't even processing your change of repayment programs. On that note, Sabrina, Calazans, do you want to talk a little bit about administrative forbearance versus a processing forbearance? Because for some folks, time is counting.
Right. So the administrative forbearance, as we said, is not counting towards PSLF for IDR. Now, the processing forbearance is different. If you are that PSLF person or you just want to get out of SAVE and work towards IDR forgiveness, you will need to fill out a paper form and apply for another IDR plan. With that, it is taking a really long time to process these applications. Something that used to be, a couple weeks, a month, might take a lot longer than that. And so what we are seeing is folks are being placed into a processing forbearance where you may be able to get your PSLF and IDR credits to count. However, interest will accrue. So again, there are the pros and cons to these things. And so you will be placed into a processing forbearance for up to 60 days. Now, I have heard from folks that they did this, but were not placed into a processing forbearance. If that is the case and the servicer made an error or the servicer for some reason did not put you into that forbearance, you can call them and request to be placed into that processing forbearance. So definitely be proactive about that. Give them a call if you can and be placed into that forbearance.
Awesome. Yeah, all of this, if you're listening in right now, can definitely be very confusing. And you might be wondering, well, I've heard you all talk about, why should I consider remaining in SAVE? But if you're wondering, who should consider applying for another IDR plan, again, there is not a hard or good answer for this right now. Things are very up in the air. They're changing all the time, but maybe if you're close to receiving forgiveness through public service loan forgiveness, or you're really close to forgiveness through your income-driven repayment plan credits, you might want to consider, getting out of the SAVE plan, enrolling in a different income-driven repayment plan, or maybe even the standard plan, which I know there was some more communication based off of that. But again, this is all based off of what those payments look like. Can you afford to make those payments? It's really just a really tough decision to make on your own.
And unfortunately, the official advice, if you call, anyone could actually call the Department of Education, would be to just wait and see, to hold and wait and see how they litigate the SAVE plan. But as you're mentioning, that is so hard for people so close on their credit count, to wait and see. So yes, you can still do this. Just expect serious delays. While you were talking, there is one group of folks that would benefit from enrolling in the SAVE plan. If PSLF is not your thing, you have a very high minimum payment that you make every month. Enrolling in the SAVE plan would be like that payment pause we had for 3 years, except you wouldn't get the credits for PSLF and IDR. But for some people, that doesn't matter. They may have been, if you were already in the standard, you could technically enroll in SAVE and put yourself into this administrative forbearance. But then they could also decide the lawsuit next month. So it's so wild. We're just trying to give it to you straight. This is probably one of, if not our most depressing show that we've done. But this is just where we're at, and we're going to keep fighting, and we just have to remember to not let this get us down, because that's exactly what the opposition wants. They want to flood us with so much that we get overwhelmed and just give up. And we can't do that as borrowers. People are freaking out about their monthly payment. They're freaking out about the on-ramp ending at the end of October, or end of September. So that's when everyone has to make their payments. There are still repayment programs available. You just have to take the time to do the lengthy paper forms.
Exactly. And just on that note, I know we're throwing tons of information at everyone, but another reminder, yes, to stay positive. There's still much work to be done. That's why we are here, why we exist. Also, there are 45 million of us here. We have loud voices and we're not afraid to use them. So yeah, stick with us, stay tuned. This is the SDCC takeover of the Leslie Marshall Show, and we'll be right back.
If you miss Leslie on TV this week, catch up at lesliemarshallshow.com.
If you're about to purchase a new mower, chainsaw, generator, or other piece of outdoor power equipment, you need to know how to protect it. For instance, the gasoline you put in it. I'm Chris Kaiser, president of the Outdoor Power Equipment Institute. Most gas now contains 10% ethanol, and that's okay. But some gas pumps are changing. Higher ethanol gas blends, like E15, E30, and E85, may be available at a local station, and they may be cheaper. But it's harmful and illegal to use in outdoor power equipment. And what you put in your car may no longer be safe for other engines. When getting gas, look before you pump. Price is no longer the way to choose your fuel. You have to choose the right fuel, because not having the right fuel for the right product can damage or destroy the equipment. Look before you pump. Protect your equipment. Stick with E10 or less. A consumer can find out about which fuels are appropriate for outdoor power equipment use at lookbeforeyoupump.com.
All right, welcome back to the Leslie Marshall Show. This is Sabrina Calazans from the Student Debt Crisis Center, joined by Sabrina Cereceres and Natalia Abrams. Now, before the break, it was getting a little depressing as you were talking about the SAFE plan stuff, but I think we should take a moment and talk about some of the positive things here. Now, President Biden has canceled the most amount of student debt out of any president in history. That's been upwards of $160 billion so far, which is great. I think we can absolutely applaud the president and still push for change, right? We can do two things at once. So that is definitely what we're doing at SDCC. But we are glad to hear about debt cancellation and what it does mean for folks. We've worked with people who have had their debt canceled. We've heard how it's changed their lives. And I think it all sums up the fact that it's about creating opportunities for folks and allowing them to contribute to their futures, their families, and the economy. I think you know, we hear from people who want to buy a home, who want to buy a car, who want to get married, settle down, and their student debt has just been what is holding them back. And so that's why we advocate, that's why we do this work, because we know that it impacts individuals, families, and so many people out there. So that is why we must continue to use our voice, as Sabrina Ashley said. We have been circulating a survey around there, trying to get folks to take it and just share their experience with student debt. It's been close to 1 year since we came back to repayment. A lot of things have changed. And so hearing from people directly is what informs our work, but it also allows us to put pressure on the administration, on the Department of Education, on lawmakers, the public, just to let folks know what we are going through, what our families are going through, and it really makes all the difference. So we've been talking a lot about the SAFE plan. We've been talking about Plan B. We talked about what the current lawsuits attacks, but there are also deadlines that are coming up and existing programs that folks can benefit from that are still taking place right now. So I think we should cover some of those before we do a recap of everything we discussed today, because it was a lot. So let's start off by recapping. Yeah, go ahead, Natalia. Want to jump in?
Yeah, I was just going to say, just to be clear, that this administration, like you were saying, has canceled more debt, and President Biden keeps trying to cancel your debt, and the opposition keeps stopping them. And yes, we wish the administration would go even further, but they keep trying every angle. And I think I was surprised when debt cancellation got voted down that President Biden fought so hard and continued. I kind of thought he was going to give up the fight then, and he hasn't. So we just need to make sure that we direct the blame to the right place. You can be frustrated with the Department of Education, be frustrated with some of the way the rollout's happening. I know we are on our team, and like you said, we can have those two thoughts, but this is clearly coming from the opposition, from Mohia, a student loan servicer that our tax dollars pay for. And so we are giving money to a company to then sue and destroy lives for student loan borrowers. It's just absolutely wild to me. So just make sure we know where to direct our anger. It would be much worse if we didn't have President Biden right now fighting for student loan borrowers.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
Yeah, and if I can just jump in on that as well, this is maybe that, you know, student debt has really been making headlines repeatedly all the time. You know, when with the work that we do with Free the Degree, which is a coalition of young people across the country, they're on campus still. Some of them are in high school. Some of them have just graduated. This is a huge conversation. This is a huge initiative that folks want to be taking and making strides to end the student debt crisis. They're, you know, it's not just a little conversation piece. They are making it front and center. They are making specific programs that are, you know, cancel student debt programs, or they're, you know, educating people on campus about what it means to have student debt and what, you know, that's going to look like. So I'll just say, you know, this is a really front and center issue. And I think that's really important, that even though it's continuous and there are problems, we're just seeing it covered enormously.
Well, and with that coverage comes all of this increased scrutiny, all of these lawsuits. You know, I kind of think, be careful what you wish for. We fought so hard to make this a big impact issue, and one, meaning it's every little thing gets announced in the news with multiple stories. The flip side of that is now we're being attacked for very small regulatory changes that, you know, I don't think the other side understands the chaos that they're creating with these lawsuits, which are completely partisan in nature. But please continue, Sabrina, because I know we want to give some clear deadlines and helpful information to borrowers with the little bit of knowledge that we do have these days.
Yeah. So let's start off with the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. There's no deadline for this. So Sabrina, Ashley, can you give us a quick recap of what that program is?
Sure. So basically, if you are a public service worker, and you work for an eligible or qualifying employer. So that could be a public school teacher, or maybe you work for the government, or maybe a hospital. Those are just a few employers. As long as you're making on time that meet the minimum, and you are a W-2 worker working full time, then those payments can count towards forgiveness. You need 120 qualifying payments to this, and that's really all there is to it. You fill out a form, certify those payments, and then all of your hard work will pay off.
Awesome. Thank you. And then there are 2 other programs that have deadlines at the end of this month. So Natalia, can you tell us a little bit about Fresh Start and the On-Ramp program?
Yes, so let's start with the on-ramp. When student loans were turned back on after 3 years of being on a payment pause, that one included time counted for repayment programs and PSLF. The current one doesn't, just to remember. But folks were given 1 year from September of last year to the end of September of this year to not be penalized, meaning they wouldn't go into default, they wouldn't have not paying their student loan show up on a credit report. That is ending. So if you have not made a student loan payment in, let's say, almost 4 years, you are required to make your October payment. You can enroll in a repayment program. You need to do that by a lengthy paper form. There is no online application right now. Caveat, you could do a paper form on and upload it to your servicer. So you can do that without actually sending something in the mail. But you have to make an October payment or be in a repayment program or be enrolled in the SAVE program on administrative forbearance, or you are going to start taking away the time to delinquency and default. You fall into delinquency after 6 months. That's when things start to get really bad on your credit report, and you're in default after 9 months. If you were in default prior to the pandemic, not during the 3-month payment, 3-year, payment pause, you can enroll in Fresh Start. You call your loan servicer or your collection agency and say, I would like to enroll in Fresh Start. There's also a website, which apologies, I do not have in front of me, but you can just call, simply get into it, and then you will be placed back into good standing. You have to do that before the end of this month as well. Correct, Sabrina? Yeah. So
Correct.
These are the programs
Yes,
ending.
take action before.
And of course, in the midst of all these lawsuits and all these holds and injunctions, the full student loan system is being turned back on as of October 1st. I'll just say we're not making the policies, you all. Like, we're just trying to advocate and help you out with them.
Exactly. All right, so that was a lot of information, but I think it's really important for us to provide some resources on where you can find more of this information that was discussed today. So my absolute favorite website, studentaid.gov. That's where you can find your information to your personal account. You can also find information on Fresh Start, public service loan forgiveness, applying to these things. You can find it all there. It's the one-stop shop. Now, SDCC also has a mailing list where you can receive our emails and our YouTube channel. So Sabrina, actually, I'll toss that to you.
Awesome. Yes, you can join our mailing list on our website, www.studentdebtcrisis.org. You can also head to YouTube and check out our YouTube channel, which has tons of recordings. Again, I'll just emphasize that things are changing all the time. So what you hear might not be the most up-to-date information because it is a recording, but it'll give you a great rundown of where to start with repayment. Yeah, those are two great resources.
Thank you so much. And also, it's an election year, so don't forget to register to vote. Go to vote.org. Thank you again for tuning into the SDCC takeover of the Leslie Marshall Show. If you want to learn more about our work, visit studentdebtcrisis.org. Thank you, Sabrina and Natalia, for joining me today. Thanks, y'all.